is WLZR W300DL Melbourne, Cumulus Media. If you've been in an accident, call the law firm of Anajar and Levine at 1-800-747-FREE. It's time to talk sports. Now from the fan studios in Melbourne, it's the Mark Moses Show on Sports Radio 1560 The Fan. You can be a part of the conversation at 321-984-1234. Now, here's your host, Mark Moses.
Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed to a Monday edition of the Mark Moses Show, only right here on Sports Radio 1560 The Fan. You know what we're going to start with. You know what this show's about. You know what the topic is going to be until 6 o'clock today. I didn't want to do this today, but we're here. The Florida Gators on Sunday fired Dan Mullen after 4 years as being the head football coach there at the University of Florida. And I'm going to start my show with a statement. Good. They made the right decision. They did. This was not just one season in the making. This goes back to last year. Ever since they were 8-1 and they had their regular season finale against LSU in December of 2020. And remember, the season last year was wonky, where we started later because of COVID. And that's why we had a home football game in December last year. They were 8-1. They were right there in consideration for the college football playoff. They took the field, and they've never been the same. It's been 11 straight months of bad Florida Gator football where they didn't beat anyone. Since December of 2020 to now, zero top 25 wins. They couldn't beat anyone. All they were doing after a while were moral victories. Oh, well, they put up a fight in the SEC title game. That's a moral victory. Oh, they didn't really show up against Oklahoma, but, season was over anyway in that bowl game. Earlier this year in September, they hosted the number one team, Alabama. They lost by 2. That's a moral victory. And then all of a sudden, the moral victories went away, and then all victories went away. It was a joke. It wasn't just this year. It was 1 year in the making. And I'm going to say this, and I covered the whole Dan Mullen era, and I covered the whole Jim McElwain era, and I covered pretty much the whole Will Muschamp era. You see a pattern here. Guys play for these coaches for 2 or 3 years. They compete, and then it goes downhill. Your average is about 3-4 years, maybe, and then we have to go find another football coach if you're the University of Florida. That's what happens. But when I look at the Dan Mullen era, there's a couple things. But the first thing, the top thing on the list was he took the best offensive players that Jim McElwain recruited, and he won with those guys. The minute those guys left, he got exposed this year. Exposed. There's a term you use all the time. It's called lipstick on a pig. That's what the Florida Gators were. Last year, Kyle Pitts, Kyle Trask, Kadarius Toney. Those guys are in the NFL now. 2 of them were top 20 picks in round 1. The quarterback, round 2, he's backing up Tom Brady right now. Those 3 guys gave you a chance to win every single game for the University of Florida. They covered up a lot of deficiencies, a lot of issues, a lot of problems. Because when you can just go back in the pocket and hit those 2 dangerous receivers, you could score points and you can win a lot of games. Once they left, the program was done. And we saw it this year. We did. It was over. And what really angers me about the Dan Mullen era is last year, from the standpoint of, if the Gators would have had a great coach, not a good coach, a great coach, they would have won the national championship last year. I will take that to my grave. I don't care. Because last year, they're at Texas A&M. They lose some stupid shootout. Remember, they fumble late, A&M gets the ball, field goal, they win. Then the LSU game, as we started the show with, in December. If they would have had their head on straight and they would have competed and put a game plan for 4 quarters, they win that game. Then they go to Atlanta, full strength, and with a great game plan on both sides of the ball, they win that game. They are undefeated going for the national title. And I truly believe they would have killed everyone in the playoff. That's what the standard should be. The standard, and it's something I hammer all the time at the University of Florida. It's, okay, beat Georgia, beat Florida State, win the SEC, go compete for a national title. Those are the standards. I'm sorry. It's not go to a bowl game. It's not moral victories. This is ridiculous. Once they got rid of those Jim McElwain recruits, the program got exposed. And right now, you look at the recruiting class, is it even top 25? That's how bad it is right now. It's not even top 25. How does that happen? I can understand, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State. Okay, they're top 5. I could live with, hey, we have the 8th best recruiting class, the 9th, the 10th. Okay, I get it. You're not going to get every top guy every single time in recruiting. It doesn't work that way. But I don't even know if you're in the top 25 as of today. And I get it. You lost the coach. Recruits are going to jump ship. But was it in the 20s? Where was it exactly? That's not the standard. The standard is winning games, beating your rivals, getting the best recruits. It's ridiculous. It was a disaster. It started last year. It carried over. There was this hangover this year. They screwed up the quarterback position where it's like, well, we should go with Richardson. Maybe we should go with Emory Jones. And my dad talks about this all the time. If you say you have 2 great quarterbacks, you have 0 great quarterbacks. There shouldn't be a debate. This is our guy. This is who we're going with. And then, he decided, you talk about Dan Mullen. All right, I'll get rid of Todd Grantham and the O-line coach. That'll fix everything. It fixed nothing. Nothing. This season was a disaster. Disaster. And the thing is, if you're Scott Strickland, you had to pull the plug. Because if you go into next season, another recruiting class, what would have changed? What would have been the difference? Do you really believe that this current coaching staff, do you believe that they could come next year and beat Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky? Forget Bama's and LSU's of the world. I'm talking the generic programs of this conference. No, I don't. They were going downhill. And Scott Strickland, he said this at his press conference yesterday. He had to make a move. He woke up yesterday morning and he said, I can't do this anymore. And see, that's what's so frustrating and just so weird with this whole conversation. If we go back 4 years, remember, Scott Strickland, the new athletic director, who came from Mississippi State, he wanted Chip Kelly. That's who he wanted. He got on the Gator plane. He flew up to New England. He offered the job. Kelly said no. Kelly wanted to go out west. He wanted the UCLA job. Good luck to you, buddy. Look, they looked at Scott Frost, but Scott Frost said, I got to go to Nebraska. Dan Mullen was not the first choice, and it's eye-opening even now. Remember, Scott Strickland was at Mississippi State, where his football coach was Dan Mullen. He knew Dan Mullen. He knew what he was getting in Dan Mullen. He settled and he hired him. And at first they're winning. They're going in the right direction. And then it just all fell apart. You look at the boxes to check. Dan Mullen understands the University of Florida. He was under Urban Meyer. He's got the pedigree. He's a quarterback whisperer, even though I hate that term. He's the guy that helped develop Tebow, an all-time legend at Florida. He coached in the SEC as head coach in Mississippi State. He had success. He recruited and coached Dak Prescott, the Cowboys' starting quarterback right now. Every box checked. Everyone, when he was hired, was like, this is a great move. This is a great hire. This is the guy. He's going to get him in the right direction. 3 New Year's Six Bowls. They won the division. They should have won the conference. Scott Strickland gives him a contract extension last offseason. Even though they lose the LSU game thrown in the shoe, then the SEC title game, they have no defense whatsoever. It's an embarrassment what happened in that game. And then in the bowl game, they don't even show up. Then he gives them the extension. Huh? It's why this whole thing is so insane after a while. And I'm listening to national radio, and everyone's like, I don't understand. He's got a good record. He's got this. He's doing that. He couldn't beat Georgia consistently. He couldn't beat Bama. He can't win the SEC. He hasn't gotten to the playoff. The recruiting's awful. There were too many bizarre press conferences. Do you want me to keep going? And then now you're at the level. You can't beat South Carolina and you can't beat Missouri. And then their stupid coaches are trolling you after the game. Those programs are trolling you. And honestly, when you really think about it, the point that really, really nailed it in the coffin for Dan Mullen is after the Georgia game, when my good friend David Waters with Gators Breakdown is trying to throw him a softball question about recruiting, when Kirby Smart had the same question, and Kirby said, look, you've got to recruit. Forget about X's and O's. You got it. Pretty much, you got to get the Jimmies and Joes. Recruiting is everything. That's how you win. And David throws him the softball question, and he butchers it. It's a softball. If you don't understand what that means, I'm going to throw you an easy pitch. You'll hit it out of the park. Everyone looks great. And he fumbled the question by saying it's not recruiting season. I get what he was trying to say. Like right now, we're worrying about the team, and we'll get to recruiting once we get to the offseason. I'll really start hammering with my answers. But he butchered that. Butchered it. I mean, you go back, just press conference-wise. Remember, they're taking on Missouri around Halloween last year. There's pretty much a massive brawl fight between the two teams.